Hi, my name is Lukas, and in this video I'll show you how to easily block JavaScript from any service with Borlabs Cookie 3.0. But before we begin, let's take a look at what could happen if you've just searched the internet for a guide on this topic. Previously, with Borlabs 2.0, you could add your own services under consent management. For instance, if you've clicked on Statistics and then on Add New, you would have found a drop-down menu where you could select a template from the respective service. However, with Borlabs 3.0, it's a bit different. Since Borlabs Cookie 3.0, there's now a library which we also find here in the horizontal menu. This library contains all templates already integrated into Borlabs Cookie 3.0. So, the first step you should always take when adding a new service is to use this search function here and enter the name of your service. The probability that your service is already in this library is very high, and it's always worth taking a look there beforehand. But what if your service isn't in this library? Well, then you always have the option to open a ticket with Borlabs support and say, hey, dear Borlabs team, please take a look at this service. Maybe you could create a package for it. Or, and this is the main part of this video, you could always block your own JavaScript by adding your own service. Before we start with the actual tutorial, let's briefly address the question, when do I need a service and when do I need a content blocker? The answer is relatively simple because, as the name suggests, a content blocker is used to block any external content that is embedded directly into your site and is visible to your visitors. What we are doing now in this video is blocking JavaScript that isn't necessarily visible, mostly used for tracking services you can embed on your website. And now I will show you how to do that. To block an external service that has provided you with JavaScript, go to Borlabs Cookie, click on Consent Management and then on Services. If you were to add the sample statistics service, you would scroll down a bit here and select Statistics and then click on Add New. Once you are on this page, you'll first be asked for an ID. It's crucial to enter a unique ID here that can never conflict with a potential ID that Borlabs might create at a later date if this package is created officially. Therefore, it's recommended that you prefix your ID with a C for custom, followed by a hyphen, and then you could insert the name of your service here. Let's just name our service C Example Statistics Service for now and continue with the tutorial. You don't need to do anything else here at the top except for setting the status to enable. After that, you need to provide the service with some information in plain text so that your user knows what you're using the service for and what the name of the service is. In our example, that would simply be Example Statistics Service for the name of the service. And for the description, we would like to enter something like, by giving you consent, you enable us to collect statistical data. This data is used to improve the performance and usage of our website. Now, let's move on to the next point, the service group and finally the provider. We've already defined the service group in our last step, so we don't need to change anything here. This is where it gets crucial. Now we provide information about the provider of this service. To clarify the difference between provider and service, let's take the example of Google. With Google being a pretty huge company offering many different individual services, Google would be the provider of the service and the service we entered above would be, for example, Google Analytics or YouTube or Google Ads and so on. You can imagine the same concept is also valid with smaller companies. For instance, if you want to add the tracking code from a plugin, then the provider would be the company that developed that plugin, because this company probably also develops other plugins. To fill this out yourself, you would remove the check mark to enter the data yourself. For the ID, you would do it the same way as above and write C, name of the provider. For the name in plain text, you could then enter the name of the provider directly, for example, plugin company XY. Of course, this is just an example. You would research exactly which provider also provides your service. For the address, you would Google the name of the provider and search for their postal address. You can also find the address in their imprint. I just write down something like Example Street 123 in Example Town. For the description, you would describe the provider itself, but the big picture of what this company does. In this example, it could be a sentence like, Example provider XY provides a platform for capturing search data and statistics. The cookie URL is rarely self-detectable and an opt-out URL as well. You can leave that blank in most cases. The privacy URL is an important setting again. You can search for it in the same way as with the address. You would Google the name of the provider and look for a privacy policy. You can also search their website and then enter the exact URL of their privacy policy here. In our fictitious example, it could be something like examplecompany.com/privacy-policy. Now let's move on with cookies. Here it would be good or desirable by law if you would enter information about the cookies that your provider sets. In reality, however, this is a bit more difficult because it's often hard to get this information. The procedure to get this information would be as follows. Google the name of the provider again and maybe see if there's any documentation where you can see what cookies they use and if there's a description available. If that's not the case and you can't find any information about the cookies used on the internet, you always have the option to write directly to the support of this provider and just ask. If you don't get any answer there, leave this point blank for now. However, if you find the desired information, click here on the right to add cookies and then you get more options. If you really found information, also take a look at the Input Fields Explained section. Here every single point is explained and what you have to enter for which field. For this tutorial I leave that blank for now and continue with the next point. Locations. Here you would enter the host names through which the script you want to block will be added or loaded. It's best to take a look at the script you want to insert and look for a URL and enter that here. If, for example, your script says the script's origin is borlabs.io, then you would enter borlabs.io. If, for example, there is a .com URL in the script like example.com and a URL like example.de, then you really have to mention the .com and the .de address. But if there's only one domain ending, then it's enough to enter one ending. It's the same for subdomains. You only have to enter the main domain. So if there were a subdomain called test.example.com, it would be enough if you entered example.com. The path is always a slash. Now we move on to the next point, options. The options are a section that can be filled out by a data protection officer. Here it really goes into detail. Let's take a look at what you can do and let's choose the example of location processing. At this point you would write something like, this provider processes its data exclusively in the US, or this provider processes its data exclusively in Germany, or this provider processes its data exclusively in the EU. That's something you could fill in to describe the service even more accurately. Then scroll down a bit further to the additional settings and here please leave everything as it is. These settings should only be made by experts and are only important for very specific cases. After that, you can then insert your script down here in the HTML and JavaScript field and insert the opt-in code simply in this field. I'll just insert the sample script now and of course you would insert your original tracking code of your service. And then you're basically done. All you have to do is just to click on Save All down here and it's ready to go. The service is created and you've blocked your own JavaScript from this service. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you're looking for more information about Borlabs Cookie 3.0, feel free to check out the Borlabs knowledge base at borlabs.io/support or head over to YouTube where you can find more videos about Borlabs Cookie 3.0. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.